Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor. Because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Us here at Off the Mat would like to send our sincerest condolences to the Scott Hall family and friends. We will now observe a moment of silence.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
That's the bottom line. The Stone Cold Simpson.
Everybody dies.
Because I'm better than you, and you know it. Woo! Yes, sir! What the rock is cooking.
Now, welcome to Off the Mat with Alex Lowe's, Josh Silverberg, and Lyle Gillen.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mat, the only wrestling show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. My name is Lyle Gillen, and I am here with Alex Flows. It's still going. Well, we just had a moment of silence with Scott Hall. It's a tragic loss in the wrestling community. And before we get to talking about the usual, the app and where you can follow us, I want to get to Scott Hall first because we just had a moment of silence. Yep. Now, Alex, absolutely. What is your fondest memory? What's your favorite memory of Scott Hall?
I would say the best memory of me for Scott Hall was when he joined the NWO. That was one of my favorite moments because it was so unexpected. The fans at Bash at the Beach were not really expecting that to happen. What they were expecting to happen was for Hulk Hogan to come in and save Randy Savage, but they didn't know. No one had any clue that he was the third man until he dropped the leg on Randy Savage, and that's when the tide turned. That's when you knew something was up. Everybody was wondering if he was going to link with the Outsiders, and he eventually did. And that was a big turn of events for the wrestling world because for a long time, Hulk Hogan was the main focus. He was the guy, the guy that everybody looked up to. Kids, he would do charities, everything. So when that happened, that was kind of like a spit in the face to wrestling fans of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, it definitely was. That's probably one of the most iconic moments in wrestling. That and his ladder match are probably two of his ladder match with Shawn Michaels is probably two things that everyone will always remember. A lot of people have been talking that he's probably the guy who most deserved to get a world title that never did.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that.
Yeah. Now, 100%. I mean, this guy has held a lot of titles. He's held the World Television Championship for WCW, the WCW United States title. He was WCW Tag Team Champion 7 times with Kevin Nash and the Giant, now the Big Show. And then he won World War III in 1997 and held the WWF Intercontinental title 4 times. So that's a big list of accomplishments.
Yeah, he obviously wrestled before we watched him live.
Yeah, obviously.
Or we were very young. I was about I was 5, I think, or just turning 5 when he joined the NWO. Now, I'm not going to ever remember that, but you can go back on the WWE Network over the years, now on Peacock, and watch all these great moments he had, and it's a real tragedy.
It really is. It's a big loss, a big a hard knocking blow for the wrestling world and Scott Hall and all of his fans.
Well, we'll get to more Scott Hall in a minute, but before we do that, now, Alex, we figured out it's so easy. Speedy can do it last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
But the app is so easy to download. I actually had a friend of mine do it. He opened up his phone He went straight to Google Play, and he downloaded it. 2 seconds, boom, 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 done.
It's that
so
easy.
And if you have an iPhone, it's okay. I know your iPhones generally aren't as good as Androids. They're not as good. Don't worry. Don't get upset about it. But you can download it too. You're included. Okay? Don't get upset. We know you have a crappy phone, but you can still download our awesome app, which is way better than your iPhone.
And there's so much included in that app too.
Oh,
There's
it's
a
great.
lot.
Actually, when you try and watch our shows live, it takes you right to Twitch. That's awesome. So if you're done and you want to watch gaming and stuff, you can go do that. It's very convenient. It's very easy to do. If you want to follow us on Twitch, you can go do that and go watch it right on your TV. I don't think we really want to see Josh's face on a 50-inch TV. So I would not recommend that at all. I would probably turn your TV off after 6 o'clock. Before then, it's us two beautiful people. Well, we also have the website.
Yep.
Maybe we could tell everyone how to get there and how to find it, and everyone can go check it out.
Yeah, it's very easy to get to the Off the Mat website. What you do is the link is in our description of Twitter. You click on that link, and it will take you to the website where you get access to upcoming pay-per-views and shows for 2022. I recently just updated that list, so please do check that out. There is also a show archive where you can watch all the replays from all of our shows and past shows that we have done for Off the Mat on bodyslam.net and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can also check out special guest interviews. There's a page for that, and you get access to all the past interviews we have done on Off the Mat. And if you want to contact us, there is a contact us page where you can reach out to us through our emails.
Well, Alex, now, what is your Twitter account?
My Twitter is @ShowSlows.
@ShowSlows. Okay, I'm Lyle Gillen _. And those are the only two accounts you really want to follow. Those are the best accounts on here. Okay,
Can't leave Josh out. @Josh Silverberg.
Okay, yeah. If you want to follow Josh, it's @Josh Silverberg. But you know, he's a Met fan, so he's gonna have very depressing tweets this year. Us Nationals fans, we're gonna have even more depressing tweets. But yeah, anyway, we have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be going right into it. We're going to be talking about a little bit more about Scott Hall. We have an interview with Jeff
Lippman at 6 o'clock.
Jeff Lippman at 6 o'clock. That's going to be a great interview. We're going to be talking everything, every promotion. We have a great conversation. He's a great guy, and I cannot wait to talk to him again. He came on a while back. We had a really long talk, and that was one of the best interviews we ever did. And I would actually like to stop and talk and apologize for this horrible glare that is ruining my entire picture. It's coming into my back window.
And Josh did say he was going to be on, but he had something come up with family, so he hates that he has to miss this interview with Jeff. But hopefully, the next time we have Jeff on, Josh can be included with us in the interview.
Hopefully, nothing comes up that time. If something does, he's probably cursed.
He probably is, for all we know.
I hope not. I really don't want him to be. But hey, Danhausen probably cursed him, and now he can't ever have an interview with Jeff. But now let's get to it. Now, Bret Hart said something regarding Scott Hall passing away, that the 300 days a year being away from your family and how the toll that it takes on your body, it put an impact on it.
Yeah,
and
it does.
The damage. Now, what is your opinion of that? And how do you think it could have affected him, other wrestlers? We saw what it could also do to Jake the Snake, what it did to Shawn Michaels for a period of time. A lot of guys who have been, it's very well established that painkillers have been something that can become an issue for wrestlers. And the 300 days in that schedule can really do a lot of damage. And
yeah, it can.
I think that's one thing that's really good about AEW's schedule. You're only committed to working 1 day a week. Maybe two, depending on if it's a live Rampage or a pay-per-view, which is not common. It really takes the stress off of you as a wrestler. I think that's great. They don't do the live shows. It's a much easier schedule. I like it. I like a lot that WWE is even moving away from live shows. They don't do as much as they used to.
No, they don't.
I love that.
It was a different time back then.
It was,
a different aspect. And for a lot of those wrestlers, they had a much larger, much more difficult schedule. So I can understand why most of them were on painkillers, why they were doing this type of stuff, because they were in so much pain and a lot of soreness that they're not used to from the impact on their body and taking these bumps and having to wrestle almost every night. I mean, it does a lot of work. Back in the day, there would be a lot of torn rotators, concussions, you name it, every injury you could think of. There were a lot of those back in the day. Not so much now because the schedules are much, much more lighter than being much heavier as they were back then.
So we know the industry has really changed. You know, even back then, I actually think a lot of it has even gotten more physical. And I mean like in match from bell to bell, how they wrestle now to how they wrestle back then. Look at what Kenny Omega did. He's going to be out for a while. He wrestled through so many injuries. It's remarkable that how they do this now. And you look at the schedule that AEW does, I think it's good. I think that is something that should go to in the future. Hopefully WWE does something similar. I would love that. And I'm not trying to like bump up AEW's theme up here. I'm just complimenting their shorter schedule. And I don't like the 300 days that Brett mentioned. I think that is brutal to the body.
Yeah, it is.
Well, anyway, let's talk about AEW for a little bit. From this past Wednesday, we have Rampage on tonight. Now, it was two things everyone wanted to see. Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. The Hardys reuniting. Now, they got the theme song, the famous Hardy Boys theme, which we could actually talk about with Jeff Lippman later because he's a lawyer and specializes in trademark law. So we can go into that and why they were able to use it.
Yeah.
And so the ratings quarter by quarter came out yesterday. And the Hardy Boys versus Private Party was actually the lowest rated quarter.
That's shocking to me. That's
it's very shocking.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a game on, a college game on, or something was happening in the time, but I didn't expect that. Now, how do you interpret that?
I think that's out of left field for me because to me, having the Hardys debut on Dynamite was a big moment Wednesday night for the show. And they tore it up in the ring, Private Party and the Hardys, and you have to give them a hand for how well they were performing in this match against each other. The chemistry was great, and the commentators even alluded to it that they are Matt Hardy's former proteges, so you could tell that Private Party knew what they had to do going into this match, how they had to match up with the Hardy Boys, and they did absolutely a fantastic job. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Hardys do next. I think they are going to start a feud with the HFO now, which is now the.
I would love that. I think it's the Andrade family office.
Yeah, Andrade family office now. I'd like to see them go up against the Butcher and the Blade. And
I want that to just be over. That entire faction to be done. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I didn't like it. I
don't like it, but I think that's what they might do. But there's other things.
I liked Matt with Private Party alone. I did not like when they started adding everybody in. I didn't like that. I thought it was no reason for it.
I agree. But they didn't have to put all
something interesting about that match. I'm looking at it right now. It has 1 million views on YouTube already.
Wow. That's
it definitely might be a weird anomaly that they didn't get something. That's why I said maybe something happened with college basketball. Something was maybe happening with.
It's just shocking to me because you can tell a lot of people were into it. The crowd was.
The crowd was great. That was a great crowd in San Antonio. Now the other thing that everyone really wanted to see that night was the women's title match. That was the biggest match besides this.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you think of that match?
I thought the women's Hell in a Cell match was great. There are a few spots that actually the spots were great, like the chair spot and the thumbtack spot. The only issue I had with this match was I wish they would have put more technical wrestling into the match. There should have been more delivery and move sets and just more cross with the transitioning. But other than that, it was a great matchup. I thought that Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker really tore it up in that ring. They really pulled out all the stops. At first, I was unsure about it. I was unsure how they were going to pull off this cage match because the last two matches weren't that great. And I think it was because Thunder Rosa wasn't really prepared. She wasn't really in the right head game for the first two matches. But once we got to the steel cage match, that's when everything picked up. That's when everything changed. And Thunder Rosa knew she had to win this match because it was in her hometown of San Antonio. And when she won, you could tell it meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to her fans. So it was great. It was an awesome moment.
Yeah, I thought that was great. She had a great reception down there in San Antonio. And, you look back, and it was the right decision to do that way. She got the pop she should have had, and I thought the match was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't as good as a Lights Out match, but it was a very good match, and I really liked it. But there was something else that was mentioned, if you were really paying attention. It was the moment when the Young Bucks and FTR are backstage. The Young Bucks said to them that you're not the best there is. Now, everyone is thinking, and it comes, I mentioned Bret Hart earlier, everyone thinks that Bret Hart is going to be coming in as their manager. Would you like to see that?
I'd love to see that. I think it adds more. It adds another layer to the Young Bucks. It adds.
Well, no, not the Young Bucks. It would be FTR's manager.
FTR, that adds another layer to FTR because now they already have that influence that they gained from Tully Blanchard. So now if they have Bret Hart in their corner, that's going to up a lot of their submission game. And it's going to make them a lot more stronger competitors than they already are. They're already huge stars. It's just having Bret Hart there is going to do much more for them in their momentum in their wrestling career.
The only thing I have a problem with is that Bret Hart is not a guy who's known for being on the mic. It's generally what a manager.
No, Bret Hart's he's more known as somebody who's in ring. He's more in ring style.
He definitely was not someone who is known for his mic work. Now, he could have a good promo every now and then, but he was not known for having a good promo. That's not something that he was known for. So I'm really very interested to see how he does on the mic. When he came out at Double or Nothing, I thought it was very awkward. The original Double or Nothing in 2019. I thought it was very awkward. But for multiple reasons. One, Bret Hart was not supposed to be there that night. It was supposed to be Ric Flair. But he had medical issues and could not be there. So they called Bret Hart in at the last minute. So that's why it could have been a little awkward. Also, seeing Bret Hart on competition TV right after he kind of made buddy with Vince again, it was a little out of left field, but for me. But I would love to see it. I think they'll be a great pair. I know FTR are huge fans of Bret Hart. They love watching him. They talk about it all the time on Twitter how they think he really is the best there is, and I think he's definitely up there. But I think it'll be a great match. I think it's a match made in heaven. I would personally love it.
Yeah. And the one thing I didn't like about this AEW Dynamite was the Jericho Appreciation Society commencement. I thought this whole thing was unnecessary. I don't like the name of it. I do not like
the name. Is weird, but I think the group and what they're going to be trying to do is going to work very well. They're essentially going to be guys who are the WWE stereotype typical wrestler. That's what they're going to be going for. And they're going to be doing that to try and get heat. And that's going to work.
Getting it, man. It's
going to work
so far.
And you know what? Everyone was saying that Daniel Garcia, he has no personality. He has no charisma. He's bland. He's boring. And I've been telling people, he's a stud. He is amazing. He's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be a star. And I thought his promo was perfect.
It was.
He's one of the guys who's probably one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet. And he said right there, I'm not a wrestler. I'm a sports entertainer.
And that got a lot of people angry. It got me angry too. It got me riled up.
That is the point. They are doing a good job at getting that, and I love it. I think they're going to do great. I think that Daniel Garcia is going to be pushed to the moon, and I cannot wait to see where he goes in a year. Can't wait to look back and see how he is. And we all know Chris Jericho. He's going to make this work. He's gonna find a way. Because when Inner Circle debuted, I'm like, that name is terrible. That's horrible. I want it to be Alpha Club. So bad. But nope. It was not. And I hated that name at the beginning, but the group became amazing. I loved Inner Circle so much. Wow, my camera is getting worse. This darn glare. It could actually be a combination of the lighting now, because I have a lamp off, because I have the lampshade, and it's blocking off the giant beam of sun.
And then, Lyle, I got to ask you about the Hangman Page, Jurassic Express, and Adam Cole Red Dragon match. What did you think about that matchup? Do you think it adds more to the story? And do you think eventually, because Josh alluded to it last week, eventually that the Young Bucks and Red Dragon kind of turn on each other? And then do you think Adam Cole picks a side? Who do you think he chooses?
No, it's going to be, they're setting up to be before Double or Nothing. Or if Kenny Omega is out for a while, at Double or Nothing, maybe even... no, it wouldn't be at Double or Nothing because Hangman would still be champion. So it'll be something that happens before Double or Nothing. They're setting up a match of Hangman and the Bucks versus Red Dragon and Adam Cole.
Yep, but
watch what they've
Adam Cole does have to choose at some point.
I think he's already chosen a side. They've already foreshadowed it last week when they showed the rift between the Bucks and Red Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Cole stormed off with Red Dragon.
Yeah, that says it right there, pretty much.
He went off with them. He didn't go. He didn't take a side with the Unlucky Off. No, and he stormed off with Red Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that right there is them foreshadowing that he's going to be leaving. AEW does a lot of foreshadowing. You have to watch a lot of little tiny words that they use, and I love that about their storytelling. They do a great job.
Yeah, they really do.
Sorry, Eric Bischoff, you are wrong. I don't know if you saw that, Alex, but Eric Bischoff said they don't do storytelling right.
What?
Yeah, we're going to ignore that and not go off on Eric Bischoff. But no, I thought that was great. I think they're doing a good job with that storyline. They're probably stretching it out a little bit longer than they thought they would have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kenny was hoping to be back at Revolution, and now right now the latest report from Fightful Select is that he could be out longer than they thought. That he's going to still have more surgeries to do. He just had knee surgery and sports hernia surgery. I don't know if he had the shoulder surgery yet, but that was one of the bad ones for him. So we'll go commercial in a minute. But yeah, I think right now they're going to be setting up a reunion of the Bucks and Hangman.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to be heading to commercial, and I'm going to try and fix my camera in the meantime. But we'll be right back, and we're going to have Jeff Lippman on, and we cannot wait. So it's going to be a great interview. And stay tuned,
ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. We'll be right back here on
the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time. It's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Oh, tell the world I see with an emoji. To stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. Feedthepig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape? You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel?
Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman. You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This is the worst town I've ever been in. No!
The champ is here. Now welcome back to Off the Mat with Alex Lowe's, Josh Silverberg, and Lyle Gillen.
Hello and welcome back to Off the Mat on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network and Bodyslam.net. My name is Lyle Gillen, and I am here with Alex Lowe's. We are now being welcomed by Jeff Littman. Jeff, how have you been?
I've been all right. What's up, guys? I was just enjoying your catering. I was wondering whether I was Dolph or I was John Morrison.
Well, which one do you think you are?
Well, now I'm Dolph. I was brought in. I wasn't released.
Okay. Well, what have you been up to? It's been a while since we've had you on. What have you been up to doing?
Well, last time you had me on, I didn't realize that we were on an hour show, and you let me talk for like 50 minutes. So of course, it's your favorite interview because you didn't have to do anything. That's not going to happen this time. This time it's going to be a conversation. Now that I know, what have I been doing? Mostly the same. I work. I play. The podcast is Hammerlock Hangover. It says Hammering Hangover down there. No big deal. It's funny. It's all good. Check it out. Then I've got my non-wrestling podcast, Garden of Doom, which is like mythology, philosophy, history, pop culture, something for everybody. And then its sister show is Garden Views, which is more mainstream interviews. Lately, we've been doing things that are legal related, trying to pull in my real life resources into the podcast world. And I sort of have a long-term mission of trying to extrapolate what will be the law of space. So I got someone, the director of the Institute for the Law of the Sea from Berkeley Law, to talk about the law of the sea. I just finished doing an interview with an Admiralty and Maritime lawyer, and I'm slowly building. I have someone looking into Antarctica, but in the interim, I had a cryptocurrency expert, someone who did the law of armed conflict. Obviously, there's a war going on right now, so and not just someone, the person who was in charge of telling the guardsmen in Washington, D.C. from January 6th forward what use of force they were allowed to do and when, literally down to when are we allowed to take our sidearms. Like, he was the point guy. So I've had sort of like my military trilogy. So, if you're interested in stuff like that, that's a little bit more maybe academical, but still academical. I just impeached myself. Academic, but interesting. Check out Garden Views, but it's all on the Garden of Doom feed anyway.
So I'm going to start off with something that came out recently.
Sure.
Now, about a couple months ago, it came out that MLW is suing WWE.
Yep.
And WWE just released a statement and I found the statement hilarious, personally. They released a statement where they pretty much tried to use AEW's success to prove that they're not a monopoly. They tried to show how AEW's success in the demo, which I find funny because you had a lot of people who try and disregard the demo. So I find that ironic. But I want your opinion as a lawyer, what their statement could do to the MLW lawsuit, and what do you think about the lawsuit in general?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we did almost 2 shows on this. One was just Stephen Pena, my co-host, and myself talking about. And then the next week we had Stephen Pena, myself, and Stephen P. New on it. So both my Stevens. And we talked about the lawsuit and anticipated types of defenses. And I mean, there's a whole things that we can speculate upon. We don't know what the contract with Tubi said. We don't know what Discovery is. We don't know if they're smoking guns regarding Discovery and all of those things. I mean, it's one thing if you read it and say, oh yeah, they're doing business with the A&E network. So, of course, Discovery's in with WWE. Well, Discovery just acquired Warner Media. So, I mean, they're in with AEW too. That's not really the way businesses work. I mean, I very much doubt that the people at Discovery give a rat's ass about this. And I surely don't think the people at Fox care at all about Tubi. It's probably their least important acquisition. So, I mean, but the particular question you raised, when you are a defendant, you raise every defense that can possibly help you. So they just filed an answer and they filed a motion to dismiss. So if the gist is an antitrust lawsuit, and that's in essence what it was, it was an antitrust lawsuit. They cited 2 federal acts, one basically saying you can't be a monopoly, and the other one is basically saying you can't act in a way to further your monopoly. So those are why they listed two different acts. So what's the prime answer to that? Not a monopoly. So why wouldn't they use this evidence that's out there to say, we're not a monopoly. You're just not the competition. Sorry, it's you. MLW wrote a really weird suit. I mean, they said that they engage in monopolistic behavior, but they blackball MLW talent, but they hoard, but they keep poaching our talent.
Yeah.
They said WWE is doing this because their quality of product has consistently declined. Well, then why aren't you answering the market by putting on great quality product? You're saying yours is good. Why isn't the market flowing to you? I mean, almost everything they said is impeached by the existence of a company like AEW, which, whether you think that they've achieved the success that they originally advertised or not, they're getting 1 million people a week. Raw gets 1.7. I mean, within 2 or 3
Raw
years.
barely gets anything anymore.
Right. So, I mean, of course, if you're being accused of being a monopoly, what do? You say, we're not a monopoly. Look, here it is. Facts, not a monopoly. Objective. There's nothing to argue about, Judge. That's what, because on a motion to dismiss, you're not going to get it dismissed unless there's nothing to argue about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do agree with that. They definitely try to act like a monopoly. I think they try and act like a monopoly over the entire wrestling business.
Well, they released 250 wrestlers. How can you be acting like monopoly? You give them more labor to everyone else.
That is true. But I think the way they speak on how it should be done, there's been a lot of times when AEW would do something and then they would ask them in the earnings calls about that stuff, and they would reiterate how they think the way they do it should be done. So I think that they have they want to be, and they try and act like one, but I don't think that they are one. I think that they are correct that AEW's existence proves that they're not one. They're not a monopoly, but I think that they definitely do attempt to be one.
Isn't it the job of every business to try to be more successful than its competitors?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And when you're a publicly traded company, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders to maximize benefit. I mean, most of the legal issues that WWE faces, it's from its own shareholders on things that the IWC doesn't care about, like they didn't get enough money from Saudi Arabia, like they didn't get enough money from the Middle Eastern satellite network, that they didn't that the whole thing about the wrestlers were stuck on the tarmac were being held hostage. So instead of getting $55 million from the Qatari cable network in the Middle East, they only got $16 million a year, and thus they breached their fiduciary duty. I mean, those are the kinds of suits that they face every single year, because every year they have forward-looking statements that says you can't rely on them. And we're talking to India, we're talking to this, and then the shareholders, like the Fireman's Fund or somebody's going to come up and say, yeah, but you lost your Japan TV deal and you could have kept it, and that's another $27 million a year you're not getting. Or you told us that India was going to be in 100 million homes and you're going to get $60 million and you only got $47 million. You're not max. So, I mean, it's almost a game. It's a cottage industry. But the original point was, do they act like a monopoly? I don't know. Does McDonald's try to ignore Burger King? Sure.
Yeah. Alex, you can go.
So my next question is about Tony Khan acquiring Ring of Honor, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, Jeff. How do you think Tony Khan can make it as good as AEW programming, and do you think he's going to be able to do that with the Supercard show?
Well, let me tell you this. First of all, the whole thing is a swirl of confusion to me, and I think the one thing that we all need to take note of is AEW LLC did not purchase Ring of Honor. Tony Khan purchased Ring of Honor. Now, whether he used another corporate vehicle or not, probably, and that would make sense. But AEW LLC, as far as we know, the only registered owner is Prashad Khan. I don't know if Prashad said, I'm not putting any more money into wrestling, and this is like Tony's sort of his insurance policy that he can always play Booker, or if this is just like, cool, son, I'm not putting more money into it, but we're going to work together and help each other, or something in between. Don't know any of that. So let's just put a pin on that. Watch how it develops, set it aside.
Yeah.
How can he make it as good as AEW? I mean, I think the easiest part is talent sharing. He has a lot of wrestlers under contract that are not doing anything or underutilized. I mean, you have Lance Archer, who every 3 or 4 months shows up, makes a lot of noise, gets a title shot, loses, and then disappears again. You have Miro, who's nobody's seen him in months. He's not even yelling in the white void anymore. The House of Black has already been forgotten. You have 3 of the most talented wrestlers in the world there. Nobody understands why Penta Oscura is Oscura. You have all these factions. I joke that AEW should call itself mitosis, because they keep spreading and dividing. And when one faction breaks up, it actually creates 2 or 3 more. It's not like you're getting rid of a faction. So talent sharing. You could actually pretend it's a different promotion. You could have invasion angles or pride things. Like I think it was like a year ago or something, I said, hey, you want the YouTube shows to be more important? Give the YouTube shows titles, and then make it like the NWA TV title. If you hold the title for 90 days, then you can take a shot at the corresponding title on the main show, on the main roster.
They could do that with AEW Dark, even mix in some AEW Dark talent to Ring of Honor.
Absolutely, they can do whatever they want. Now, I think there's been some interesting signals. One is that the Briscoes, they just booked them to face FTR, even after Warner Media. Yep, breaking news. Even after Warner Media said don't hire the Briscoes, well, they said AEW don't hire the Briscoes. Nothing about Ring of Honor, but it's also privity of titles. I mean, one way or another, those titles are going to be in the AEW family. Also, they were talking about Gresham being hired. Now, I'm not a big Gresham fan, and I think that focusing on Gresham and his style of wrestling and his style of wrestler is one of the things that helped accelerate their malaise. That said, if you want to have privity of champions, Gresham is their sitting champion right now. Josh the Goods Woods was on Dark. Plenty of Ring of Honor talent has been on Dark. They lose. He won. And Tony Schiavone interviewed him. He's the sitting pure champion. So these are signals, I think, that Tony Khan's going to try to keep at least the privity of the titles for some amount of time instead of starting fresh. So I think Ring of Honor fans should take heart. On the other side, I have personal relationships with some Ring of Honor talents, and I also created a Twitter account where I just only follow Ring of Honor, wrestlers or former wrestlers. None of them are talking about Supercard, and the people that I know, they haven't heard anything from Sinclair nor from AEW.
Wow,
so
that's shocking to me, because there's so much that they could do with the roster they have for AEW Dark, AEW, and just build from there with the Ring of Honor roster and do what they need to do to make it entertaining and interesting for everybody.
We'll see. I mean, we will see. I don't know if they can make money with it. I don't know if it's going to be on HBO Max. I don't really see HBO Max being interested in wrestling. It's more like prestige TV. But then again, they have all the DC comic cartoon movies on it. So maybe, who knows? I don't know. But it's good for Ring of Honor because it was going to fold.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Supercard of Honor, it might be too late. I mean, it's a little bit far from Dallas. It's competing against Rampage, which is sort of like you're competing against yourself. The Collective for the Culture show was earlier that day. There's a lot of shows that are closer to WrestleMania. SmackDown is that night. I think the Hall of Fame ceremony is either before or after SmackDown. So I think it may be too long to salvage Supercard, but I think Supercard is still on Sinclair or Dime or Ring of Honor's remaining budget. I don't think Tony's putting his own money into it. I think they're just saying, yeah, you can book it and just indemnify us.
So there was been a lot of talk about Cody going to WWE or leaving his EVP position. Now, a lot of people were speculating on how that works, and they were also speculating on how he could debut and when he would debut in WWE, suspecting that he did go there or did sign there already. Some people think that he might have had to wait till his TBS show went out. Now, from a legal perspective, how would it work with an EVP leaving and then him going to a rental company like that?
Well, it depends what the contracts say. I mean, my understanding is that the EVP and the talent contract ran concurrently. My further understanding is that only the talent contract had any sort of non-compete in it. And he wasn't released. It was just expired. So it works the same as any other free agent. He was completely a free agent. He was working without a contract for about a month or so. The real question is, how much of an EVP was he really? I mean, there have been, stories going back to December 2019, that sort of the EVPs have been sidelined, and Tony Khan said, I'm going to take over booking. And then there were stories about how, sort of the elite weren't getting along, but it really wasn't so much the elite. It was Kenny and the Bucks were still getting along. They just weren't getting along with Cody and Brandy. And then there were stories probably from Cody, but other people verified it, that during the pandemic, Cody came in a suit and tie every single day. He got there at 6 a.m. He left at 9 at night, while the other EVPs never showed up. But it seems that Tony Khan likes them better. Maybe Cody was a pain in the ass. Maybe Brandy was a pain in the ass. Maybe they just butt heads. Cody apparently wanted more money. I don't know how you leave an EVP job where you actually get health benefits, where you have access to not one but 2 TV shows through the network, where your wife has a job. You probably have a 401k that's being contributed to, whether you have power or not. I mean, Cody, think what you want about him, but when he left WWE, he bet and gambled on himself, and he won. And yeah, he did a lot of things to make that happen, but he won. And now it's weird. And the whole thing was like, this is a revolution. It's not about money. And then 3 years later, it's about money.
Now, my theory about it, and I've been trying to sit back and watch, I think, because now there's a report that Kenny Omega is still doing his EVP job and still doing everything he had to do. And my theory about Cody is that him and Tony had a complete falling out. And it had nothing to do with EVP, I think, or everything else that he had to do. I think it was just Cody wanted to book. And when he took that away, Cody tried to probably hold on as much as he could. And then when he realized he couldn't hold on anymore, they just completely split apart. Because from what I've been told, is that there's stuff that happened that people won't even report it yet. And
I think you're 100% correct. I just
they don't want like I was told that they don't want to report it, and because they could get in trouble. So I think that it's something really bad between Tony and Cody, because I don't know, it's just something really fishy about this entire situation.
Yeah, it raises a lot of eyebrows and questions. It definitely does.
I think that you're right, and word is that Cody isn't really speaking to Kenneth Omega, or really the Bucks. But the only thing I differ with you on is I think that is EVP related, because I think the only thing he did as an EVP was book. I mean, he probably did other stuff too, but that was, but it's funny you talk about Kenny. That's why I laugh when you said Kenny Omega is the EVP, because like Kenny Omega has 3 jobs as the EVP. His 4th job is to wrestle, but it's, and I'm not going to talk about the injury and all that. You guys addressed that really well. But one job was to book the women's division, which he stunk at. 1B was to take care of the Japanese girls, which apparently he didn't do at all. So it's like, Kenny, you had one job, and even Sheeta's complaining about how bad you were at coordinating things. And then the other job he has is to sort of spearhead the video game, which by all reports is a disaster. But Kenny's only statement on it within the last 90 days has been, we're not going to have the graphics or functionality of WWE 2K. So the only public statement he's made on it is burying it. So it's like, Kenny had 3 jobs, 0 for 3. Just stick for. I really hope he can recover, because actually I loved heel Omega. I know he's probably going to be positioned as a face, blah blah blah. But I loved his thing with Callis, which surprised me as much as anyone else, because he's not really my type of wrestler. But as an EVP, he had 3 jobs, 0 for 3.
Mm-hmm. And what's ironic about the video game thing is the company Ukes that's working on the AEW game works on WWE 2K13.
Yeah, well, apparently they're still using 2013 designs and graphics.
Alex, you can go.
So my next question is about Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's been a lot of comments about him wrestling against Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. Do you think it happens? Does it happen for a long time? To me, I don't see it happening any longer than 1 to 5 minutes. I don't think he can go all out in a match against Kevin Owens. But on the other side of that, would you just see it as a segment, like a walk-in type of segment?
This is a cop-out. I'm really not sure. I think at this point, if it's a segment, it has to be a fairly long segment. If it's a match, I agree with you. It's going to be a short match. I mean, they can do one of those hybrid things where the segment goes all wrong. And, WWE only has rules when they want WWE. So, Stone Cold could stomp a mud hole in them and then, say, get me a ref in here, ring that bell. And I'll just beat up Kevin Owens for a while. And Owens will sell for him for 5 or 6 minutes. And then what's going to happen. He's going to do a stunner, and Kevin Owens is going to walk right into a clothesline from hell from JBL, and then there's going to be a spinneroonie from Booker T. When Kevin Owens stumbles up, he's going to walk into a super kick from Shawn Michaels, and finally he's going to get to the back and he's going to bump right into the Undertaker, and it's going to end with a tombstone. The end. There we go.
I'm going to laugh very hard if that's exactly how it happens.
That's exactly how I might have the order wrong, but it's going to end with a tombstone and start with a stunner.
I wouldn't be shocked. It's the WWE, like they do that.
Yeah, and you think about how Stone Cold, when he started in wrestling, it was a different time, and it was a different ball game then. And he went through some injuries, and now I feel like time is pretty much caught up with him towards this WrestleMania. I don't think they have him go all out in a match with Kevin Owens. I don't think it's very long. I don't think
punch, kick, punch, kicks, couple, and there'll be a stunner at the beginning and a stunner at the end.
I don't even think he takes a bump. I don't think he can do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're exactly right. If anything, the only offense will be Kevin Owens throwing furniture, from the set towards his direction.
Flipping chairs. So I know there's a lot of confusion, and I brought up earlier about the Hardy Boy theme song and why AEW was able to legally use it. I was wondering if you could explain that to people and say why it's they're allowed to.
Yeah, minor thing, probably nobody out there cares, but music is copyright, not trademark. This is public source music. This was used in commercials back in the 90s. Nobody owned the music. Tony Khan didn't buy it. WWE didn't buy it. It's just public stock music, and it's stuck, but it's free. You could use it on the show if you wanted to.
Oh, I might use that.
I mean,
it's our new theme.
It's common source music, meaning it was made to be free for everyone, probably in the early days of the internet. It's not the same as public domain, but the result is the same. But public domain is like Bryan Danielson's Flight of the Valkyrie. That's from the 19th century. That's public domain.
So how does public domain work? Like, at what point does something become from owned by somebody to public domain?
It can be more complex, and if you want to look, if there's comic book fans out there, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, which is just Jeff Lippman, or if you go to my firm's website, Dunlop, Bennett and Ludwig, me and another attorney, we wrote 2 parts about heroes' rights, and it was about the Marvel affirmatively trying to disallow the copyright rights to the creators to sort of not make the same mistake DC made. So you can read some of the complexities, but the basic rule, just to keep it simple for this show, is date of publication plus 75 years.
Okay. That seems pretty simple. It's probably a lot more complicated than that.
The date of birth. There are, I mean, the older something is, because in the beginning, copyrights only lasted for 18 years. So then they extended them for 18 years, but there are also 2 5-year extension. Believe me, you don't want to know all this. Nobody needs to know it. Basically, date of first publication plus 75 years.
Okay. All right. Alex, why don't you go?
So my next question pertains to New Japan. I saw a video on YouTube where Killer Cross is going to be making his New Japan Pro Wrestling debut April 1st, and he called out Minoru Suzuki in his promo. Do you think he competes against Minoru Suzuki in the first debut for himself in New Japan? And do you think they both have similar styles when it pertains to in-ring competition?
Well, I think he's absolutely going to face Minoru Suzuki. I also don't think he's really signed with New Japan. I think it's a
one-off, yeah.
I think he signed an appearance with New Japan Strong. I think this is going to be in the States, and it's probably going to be around when Minoru Suzuki is probably doing 6 or 7 other shows as well. Do they have the same style? I don't really think so. I mean, I think Killer Cross really has a very WWE style, but he can do the Suzuki. I mean, he's a legit tough guy, and listen, Suzuki, I know that there's a mystique around Suzuki, but he's about half Cross's size and he's twice as, probably close to twice his age. So, I don't think he can really hurt him anymore. So, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun for people, but I don't think you're going to see Cross in the G1 next year.
So you're saying it's just probably just going to be a one-off, similar to like MLW, where stars come over from AEW and they just do a one-off appearance and then they go back, kind of like that.
Yeah, well, Killer Cross will be on MLW next week, and I don't know if he taped for more than one show or that's it. I mean, Buddy Matthews was on MLW yesterday. He lost to TJP. So I'm pretty sure it's a one-off. Roxy, who we know signed with WWE, lost to Miranda Gordy on the same show. So yeah, they're just bringing people in. They're coming in for their royal appearance, going out. I don't even think they're story arcs anymore. I think it's just so people will tune into MLW. We know Buddy Matthews now is signed with AEW. So yeah, I think that a lot of promotions are sort of playing games with this, and they're no longer using the word Forbidden Door. It's enough that it's sitting out there. But it's basically these are all free agents. I think that Cross, for the short term, has thrown in his lot with A, his acting career, and B, control your narrative and seeing if that takes off.
Yeah, because he has talked about in an interview with CVV where he wanted to go into filmmaking and acting. So I could see him doing that, and then also doing stuff with control your narrative.
He's doing a movie. He's in a movie.
Yes. So I want to ask you, what do you think about all the rules for control your narrative?
well, 4 of them are control your narrative.
Pretty much. 1 and 2 contradict number 5.
Right. Then it says if there's a sanctioned match, time limits apply. If there's not a sanctioned match, no time limits apply unless you pinfall or can't answer. And then, like, the other ones are no super kicks, no Canadian destroyers, no tope suicidas, which, of course, somebody joked, yeah, well, you can't do a tope suicida when the brick wall is 12 inches from the apron. So, I think, like everybody else, I think that in their minds, they think that they're doing sort of Raw Underground or Fight Club or another version of Boyle Heights Lucha Underground.
Or Bloodsport, yeah.
Yeah, like that gritty, real fighting feel. But I'm like everyone else. I'm very skeptical about it. First of all, a lot of these guys are not the most popular people in wrestling. I don't know that anyone really wants to support Austin Aries.
No.
And I mean, real fighting exists. So you can see real fighting easily. Further, if you want hardcore wrestling and you want to feel like you're seeing real fighting, hardcore wrestling exists. You can see GCW or hardcore. So this is not that. So it's something in between. And I don't know that there's a market for in between with sort of, some guys that aren't that necessarily that popular, but I think they're banking on, that people want to see Braun and, maybe Eric Redbeard and Cross. And I like to see those guys too. I mean, I see Flip Gordon's on a card. I see Vincent's on a card. Vincent, he's doing a Garden of Doom with me. We're going to record this coming Monday night. We're not talking about wrestling. We're going to talk about horror. They're Killian Dane, whatever his name is now. I mean, I thought he was deported. I'm glad that, that they're working. I just don't see there being enough interest, and I don't see there being enough money to keep these egos happy. Like, I think the real fighting is going to be when the camera's off. And then they said, we have this TV deal. It was like on Pro Wrestling TV. I mean, we could get on Pro Wrestling TV. I mean, I never heard of Pro Wrestling TV. It wasn't Fight TV. It wasn't The Zone. It wasn't Bleacher Report. It's like, some F-level, F-tier streaming service. That's not a TV deal.
So, I don't know if you saw this, but the reply, how the Young Bucks, they tweet everything like as a troll through their bio. And their bio was a straight shot at Strowman, saying how making fun of his running around the ring. And then you said the 12 inches from the wall. And I'm trying to picture in my head running around the ring.
Well, we can increase the picture, because just picture him going through the ring like a cartoon and there being a hole in the wall, in his form, in his shadow. So, like Mr. T did in that movie, in that after school show when he recreated the Tough Man competition and he ran right through the brick wall like in '82 or whenever it was.
So, Alex, why don't you go up now?
So my next question pertains to Moxley and Danielson as a tag team. What do you think about William Regal managing them, and who do you think on the roster competes against them and has a fair chance against them? Because Josh, Lyle, and I talked about this last week, where we think eventually the Jurassic Express will drop the titles, and then they will have like a triple threat, some type of match where they have tag teams involved, and then that Moxley and Danielson will win the tag titles at a Double or Nothing.
Okay. Where to start? Let's start with an overarching statement. I think AEW uses a lot of their top talent to get over people who they think are going to be young stars, but they're wrong about most of the time. And that's why they keep bringing in older stars or stars from other places. And it's beyond bloated. That's not what you asked me. I have loved Brian's work in AEW. He's been fantastic. Nobody can turn into a heel just like that and have the crowd love him and boo him at the same time. Moxley's work in AEW, despite my co-host, who is basically a blood marrow donor for Vince McMahon in advance, who hates Moxley. I was never a Dino Ambrose fan. I am a John Moxley fan. I think his work has been amazing. Together, I think they're great. It's like a two-man power trip. Who can compete against them? Whoever the bookers want to make look good against them. I mean, I think that the obvious ones would be CM Punk would have to get a partner of the same caliber. Who is that? I mean, maybe, on the roster now, forgetting about face or heel, Malachi Black, Pac, maybe Andrade. Miro would be interesting. If they ever let Brian Cage out of his cage, maybe he'd be interesting. I don't know. Hangman Page would be interesting. I mean, there's people. I'm not interested in best friends and William Regal with them. I mean, I sort of feel about this, and I heard, I was listening to Catering about what you were saying about Bret Hart, and I sort of feel the same way. I don't think William Regal. Why do you pair William Regal with two guys who are not only some of the best talkers in your company, but in the business, period? They don't need him. He doesn't benefit anything. But you put William Regal next to Top Flight, they're immediately enhanced. You put William Regal next to Keith Lee. The only criticism about Keith Lee, objectively, is that he's boring when he speaks. I know people say he's fat and he's out of shape and he's cumbersome, but let's assume that he can work through that, or people are just saying what they want to see. You put William Regal next to him doing the talking for him, he's immediately enhanced. Brian Cage, you want to let him out of the cage? He can't cut a promo, looks like $1 million. Put William Regal next to him. Problem solved. So I don't like this. I don't see anything in Wheeler Yuta, and I don't really like small wrestlers to begin with. I don't like best friends. And then I saw him next to Brian. He's the same height or shorter than Brian, and he's slighter than Brian. So I instantly have no interest, and I don't know why these guys would be so interested in him. And the other names they named was Daniel Garcia, who Jericho put into, Inner Circle, 2.0. And then the other one was Lee Moriarty. I don't know where that's going to go, if any place. But who do I see with them? CM Punk and Cesaro. That's who I see competing against them.
Yeah, because Cesaro hasn't been signed yet. That's a big question.
I think Samoa Joe could join them.
I think Samoa Joe may have a Keith Lee problem, but Cesaro filed for a trademark recently for CSRO. I think if WWE wanted to give him problems, that he'll have problems with that. I don't know if they will, if they won't. I don't think they dislike him.
Someone found a picture actually of him having that on his shirt, and they think it's his own clothing line or something that he's going to be making, because he also filed it to use in coffee. So he might be trying. I don't know what. I don't think it's going to be like a wrestling thing, because he wore it on WWE with a shirt that had the same thing on it.
Maybe, but if he wore it on WWE TV, I think that's even a problem. Listen, the implication is that it's Cesaro. I mean, it's phonetically Cesaro. You just took out most of the vowels, but I don't know. I mean, that's something for another day. But yeah, also, Cesaro would be really cool to maybe build new Ring of Honor around. I mean, everyone said that he was great in Ring of Honor and he should be a world champion. And if you want your new Ring of Honor to get some attention, Jonathan Gresham sure didn't get you any. Would Cesaro?
Oh,
Fuck yeah. Oh, am I allowed to curse here?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Fuck yeah.
So now you mentioned that some of the guys, like the young guys that tried to build up, you think they didn't. Now I want to know who you think that is.
Okay, well, let's start with the last year or so. They told us that Dante Martin was this bright solo star, and then during the as his brother started getting healthier, all he was doing was losing to people he was previously beating. Now, forget about my personal opinion that Will Hobbs shouldn't be losing to Dante Martin anyway, but he was losing to Dante Martin, and then as soon as his brother gets back, they put him back in a tag team. Then they give him that one match with Adam Page, which I thought was pretty good, but Adam Page isn't over as a champion. No one really buys him. He's like the 15th most important person on the AEW roster. So Dante Martin, fail. Darby, who they succeeded with, now he's in this thing with Sting, which is also going to be with the Hardys. So what order is Darby? Is he the third most important guy, the fourth, the first? I don't know, but they turned a singles star and made him into a tag team novelty act with Sting. Ricky Starks, he was supposed to be a big star. He's in a faction where one guy's a face, two guys are heels, and he's got a made-up title that he almost never defends. And his faction loses every feud. Ethan Page was supposed to be a star. Pac was supposed to be a star. Jay Lethal was going to come in and was going to be a star. Brian Pillman Jr., Rookie of the Year, was going to be a star. I mean, I could go on. Jungle Boy, he was going to be a single star. Well, he's got tag team gold, but I mean, does he feel more important than Christian Cage when they're together?
I think so.
I don't. I think.
I think he gets. Some of those I 100% agree with you with, but like Darby, Sandy, Jungle Boy, even Adam Page, they all get some of the best reactions on the show every week.
Oh yeah,
some of the best reactions out of any company right now. So I think
Darby does. MJF.
Adam Page 100% does. He gets a great pop. This week or the week before I think it was, he had a great pop. He drew well for the pay-per-view. I think that I think those four mainly. Majority of the other ones, I think
I don't think he drew well for the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
I think Punk versus MJF drew well for the pay-per-view. I mean that card had a million matches on it. How do you credit one match when you have 11 matches on the card? And listen, I know they like to go year over year. Revolution last year did 135, this year did 170, but that's how you measure Super Bowls. That's not how you measure wrestling pay-per-views. Wrestling pay-per-views is one to the next. No one really cares about the names. I mean, the last pay-per-view did 205,000, so this one went down to 170 or 175.
No, that was All Out. All Out was the one before that.
Okay, then they've gone down and then a little bit up, whatever it is. However you want to measure, you can make whichever argument you want. The year over year only matters to me if the viewership over year across the board is higher. And I think AEW's 2021 second half of 2022 viewership is over the same period, 2020, 2021. And I think that their pay-per-views are higher, generally speaking. I'm just not sure if that's a trend or if they hit a peak, summer of Punk modern era, and then sort of have plateaued back down, or if it's something they can sustain. Because Bret Hart is a gimmick. It's going to get a gimmick for people to tune in maybe once, but I don't think anyone really needs to see 61-year-old Bret Hart managing FTR. I don't think that's a draw. I don't think that adds anything.
Well, they could prove us wrong 100%. We don't know. But,
yeah, we don't. We obviously don't know.
Now,
and I was gonna mention off what Jeff was saying, and he's right to a point. A lot of the other half of those stars that were mentioned, a lot of them just keep losing. A lot of them aren't getting fair pushes. And that's why I see this on Twitter a lot. People commenting like, hey, like half of the roster isn't being utilized. Like we need to pick this up somehow.
No, I agree with him with a lot of those names he mentioned. Yeah.
Ring of Honor might be a great escape valve for that to put a lot of people. I mean, is he in a better place than he was with WWE? I don't know. Malachi Black, was he? Sure. But is he now? I don't know. Buddy Matthews, Brody King. Does anyone even care that he's there now? Did they ever? I don't know. But, we'll see if he can take, 40 or 50 people and use them in Ring of Honor successfully, then cool.
Alex, why don't you go?
So my next question are what were your thoughts on AEW Revolution, and what's your take on the pay-per-view? What were your ups and downs from it?
Way too long. I appreciate that when you're charging $50 that you're going to give me a lot, but I don't want a lot. I've been trained now for WWE, unless it's like WrestleMania or something, that the show is going to be 3 to 4 hours. That's all I can take. The downside, I mean, the women's match was really bad. Actually, all of the women's matches were bad. The pre-show, 2 of the matches didn't need to be there at all. And it's not like Hook versus QT Marshall was a bad match. It just didn't need to be on a pay-per-view. The House of Black 6-man match, there was nothing wrong with it. It was a good match, but that one and the Darby Sting, that crash, which had too many people in it, that one didn't need to be. Both of those matches didn't need to be on the card, and one of them could have been on the pre-show and the other one taken off. So, I mean, I think by the time that you got to some of the, there were some great matches on the card. Jericho Kingston was a great match. I think that Punk and MJF was really good. I thought that the title match was really good. Paige and
Adam
Cole was really good. The only problem is that they were very similar in tone and pacing, which probably isn't a problem if you have 8 matches or 7 matches on a card and 1 pre-show versus 11. So I just thought it was too long. I think that there was an excellent pay-per-view in there. It just needed an editor.
I agree with way too long on a Sunday. If it was on a Saturday, I think it's a little bit better. And
that's a better way to go.
And they don't want to compete with UFC right now, and I understandably, I don't think WWE or AEW, if they were charging for a $50 pay-per-view, can compete with UFC.
Right.
But I think if they go back to those Saturdays, or even, you have Double or Nothing and All Out, which is on a Sunday when Monday most people are off.
Mm-hmm.
Those I agree with. They can go that long. It's kind of like that Saturday factor. But
just having it on a Sunday is like down
too
for
long.
me. Too long, and people have to work the next day. People got things to do. Like nobody's watching. Yeah, nobody's going to watch a 4-hour pay-per-view on a Sunday night.
Me and Josh both said that.
I watched 5 hours, 4 hours and 51 minutes. When I realized that it wasn't ending at, back in the day, I remember if you went past 11, you had to pay you had to split like the whole 3-hour block with the pay-per-view carrier. Maybe that doesn't exist anymore, or maybe Tony Khan just doesn't care. I don't know. But if that's the case, he cut whatever his profits were, he lost them because he paid pay-per-view twice. Because it's really 50-50. But anyway, forget about that. Once we got to 11 and I realized, holy shit, there's at least 2 more matches. I'm like, no, it's 3 matches. I'm like, this is going to go at least another hour. At that point, I was checked out, and those were some of the most important matches. So at least end at 11. If you're going to start at 7, at least end at 11.
I agree. And that was the thing of how WWE pay-per-views back in the day when you bought them. You could look at 10:30, and you knew it was going to end in like 15, 20 minutes because they would never get to 11.
Yeah. Now, credit to them. Their pre-show is 3 matches. It's not a bunch of commercials and advertisements. Like WWE, the pre-show, the first half hour is just advertising for the match. Then there's one short match, and then they basically do an abbreviated 15-minute version of the half-hour commercial they did before. And Peter Rosenberg says stupid things.
And the entire pre-show is a commercial for the pay-per-view, which they are about to show and people are watching on the network that they already bought it on.
Right, which made no sense until maybe it makes sense for Peacock now, because a lot of people just have Peacock. So maybe it makes sense now, but it didn't before. And AEW doesn't do that. Though they do promote what's happening on the card. If you've already paid $50, you don't need to be told what's coming up on the card time through the show. Maybe do it at the 7 o'clock top of the hour, and then again at 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
that's enough.
So, Alex, do you want to?
Yep. So my next question is about The Undertaker. What are your thoughts about him going into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2022? And who do you think inducts him into the Hall of Fame? Do you think it's Kane, or do you think it's somebody related to the Paul Bearer family that inducts him?
Well, I mean, Vince McMahon already said he's going to induct him, so that's a fait accompli. I thought it was going to be Kane, but Vince said it's going to be him, and that's fine. I mean, I know that Vince thinks of the Undertaker as his finest creation. What I think of the Undertaker going in, yeah, I mean, of course, he's a headliner. It's Texas. He's from Texas. He's one of the legendary characters in wrestling, and I think that even if you're not a wrestling fan, if somebody said, do you know the Undertaker? I think that there's a reasonable chance that somebody in every household in America knows who the Undertaker is and knows that he was a wrestler, even if they never watch wrestling. And that's pretty rare because I think there's a reasonable chance that if you're in a neighborhood that you have a block of 7 houses, that someone knows who Roman Reigns is. But if I ask my parents who's Roman Reigns, I'll be like, I don't know who's Roman Reigns. If you say who's the Undertaker, I mean that wrestling guy, they'll know that. Versus you say Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage, they know who that is. You say Superfly Snuka, people still know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with you, by the way. Now, I want to ask you about WrestleMania. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. We can't ignore the biggest name pay-per-view in the world. So, in your opinion, what do you think about the card coming up? Now, I'm looking at it. I think it has way too many celebrity matches.
Yeah,
it's like every other match is a celebrity. But so
even a commentator having a match. Pat McAfee against Austin Theory, which I don't know about that one.
So now, what do you think about the show? Do you think that Cody has any chance of? Do you think like the hype around that is kind of dead?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give a little WWE hate, because I think I've been directing it in all different directions so far, and people are going to think that I'm a mark. I don't think much of this WrestleMania card. There are sometimes when you are a wrestling podcaster that watching wrestling feels like work, and not only do I have to watch SmackDown and Stand and Deliver, which usually I look forward to NXT stuff, but then I have to watch 2 nights of WrestleMania, and there's almost no matches on this card that I'm interested in. I thought I understood WWE about 9 months ago. I thought that they were going to be the land of the giants. So that's what they were doing. They sent a bunch of the big men back down to work on their skills, and then they released half of them. And then they released people like Cross and Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman and then Keith Lee. And I mean, and say what you will about any of them. I know a lot of people, Braun Strowman, he sucks. Yeah, but he's a 6'9" monster. You can't, you can't just find those on an assembly line. So all of a sudden I was confused. Now, the one thing I do understand is they're just event planning. So This is what they're doing, event planning to try to get the most mainstream eyes. And nobody's interested in wrestling, but people were interested in Bad Bunny. Pat McAfee has one of the most popular sports podcasts in the world. It's like Joe Rogan then Pat McAfee, on variety, sports, pop culture. Logan Paul.
They bring in Logan Paul,
somehow he's a YouTube sensation. Somehow people still are interested in Johnny Knoxville. I don't understand this stuff either, but I understand why they're doing it. That said, I'm very interested in the top card matches. I'm very interested in Roman Brock. I think that story is great. It's been great almost the entire time. Roman's been killing it. Brock's been killing it. Becky versus Bianca has to happen. It's the redemption story that's been building since SummerSlam. It's necessary. I don't mind Charlotte, Ronda. I know a lot of people do. I don't think the build has been particularly great, but it almost doesn't matter. Ronda Rousey is one of those people who people will tune in just to watch. Do I think Cody's going to show up? Yes. Do I think some of the hype has died? Yes. But hype in wrestling is something that's easy to recapture. And when Seth Rollins says, I'm a main eventer, I don't have a match, God damn it, I want a match here at WrestleMania. And then all of a sudden, Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, West Texas University, former player, Texas NWA legend, comes out, former AWAer, and Seth Rollins wasn't ready for. He was ready for anyone in the locker room, just not Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes wins 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think that's going to go over, and it's. I don't think Vince is going to make the same Barry WCW mistake again. So yeah, I think that's going to be big. Do I really care about seeing that match? No. Do I care about the women's tag team matches? Do I care about the men's tag team matches? I mean, I knew what half of this card was going to be. Like months ago, I told Steve, I said, Why is Nakamura losing the belt? I'm like, because they want him and Rick Boogs to be a tag team act. It's very clear. And they're probably going to face the Usos at WrestleMania for the belts. He's like, no way. And then he was so sure that, Riddle versus Randy Orton was going to be a match and Seth Rollins was going to be in a title match. I'm like, no. I thought Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens was going to be against the RK Bros, but I knew the RK Bros were getting it back. Then this whole Stone Cold thing came up, and that's, that's a spectacle for curiosity's sake. But then I said to him, it's going to be the RK Bros versus the Street Profits and probably Alpha Academy in a fatal three-way. But no, I'm not. I think the build has been it's sort of like AEW. They sort of book week to week. I think WWE just books on 30-day cycles. And I think most of this card is very uninteresting to a wrestling fan, but I'm not sure that they care. I think that they think that it might be interesting to a family to watch on Saturday night and then continue through Sunday night to see the rest of it.
Yeah, and that's a huge problem for me is when they do something like that. And I talked to a friend of mine about this earlier, where why don't they just target the same, like not the same audience, but half of the audience, like one half of the childlike audience and then target the adult audience so that it makes sense putting in the different of programs.
I don't know, because I guess Stand and Deliver might be that, but that's not even what NXT is now. It's
way different.
I don't know. I guess Vince believes in his vision, and then he's really testing it out. I guess as long as Comcast Universal and Peacock is thrilled with what they're getting from WWE. So, I guess why change? But I'm not happy about it either. I get some of it, but I'm not happy about it. I've never really liked celebrity matches. I didn't even like when they brought in athletes. Like, I never thought it did the wrestlers any favors to lose to the athletes. Then the athletes are gone. I don't think you ever kept those audiences. It's not for me. But will I be watching it? Yeah, I guess probably. Sort of have to.
Well, Jeff, I want to say thank you to you for coming on and giving us your time.
Thank you for coming on with us. It's always a pleasure. It's always an honor, and it's always a lot of fun to have you on with us.
No, thank you guys. Thank you for those words. It's an honor. That's laying on thick. But no, thank you. I love coming on. I'll happily be on anytime I'm available and you want me. Sorry, I've cursed Josh. I'm really interested in what the Speedy Petey is. So that's a curiosity I have. I'm picturing Danhausen. But yeah, thanks for having me, folks. Please, if you want to hear more, check out Hammerlock Hangover, and if you want to check out non-wrestling podcasts, Garden Doom and Garden Views, give them a shot.
Yeah, definitely. You have I like talking to you. You have different opinions than us, and I think that's great to have on. And instead of having that repetitive of talking to people that sometimes might have a similar opinion, might get boring. And that's why I think we flow very well talking, because we don't sit there and just agreeing with each other. We sit there
also very civil. It's not, you don't disagree with me. It's not like I want to kill your mother. It's just wrestling. It's like the whole distinction between, until recently, I thought the distinction between sports entertainment and professional wrestling was nothing. It was fictitious. Now it sort of actually is something, but it's still got to be among the least important arguments in the world.
I agree with that. Yeah, we are actually going to be running out of time soon, so we can't really get on to that. But thank you again. I'll be in contact with you. We can try and get you on again and try and break the curse of Josh and have you on with him. I know he was really looking forward to talking to you. But thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Anytime. Thank you guys. Stay evil, my friends.
Definitely.
Thank you.
You want to Okay, thank you, Speedy. Well, we're going to be ending at 7:00 today. We can go a little bit longer. Right off the bat, Alex, why don't you give us your finishing move?
So my finishing move is the WWE UK pay-per-view that's set for September, and I heard that's going to be happening on Saturday, September 3rd at Cardiff's Principality Stadium, and this is going to be in the United Kingdom and out of Wales. So I'm very interested to see what they do with this pay-per-view, what they're going to call it. I wonder what name they're going to use, what rights to the name they might use for UK pay-per-view, but we'll see.
I think it'll be very interesting, and it's supposed to be happening the same day as All Out.
Mm-hmm.
So if they do that, like in the afternoon, that'll be a very long day. I'm very interested in seeing if they actually go through with that, because I know in the past there were rumors that Vince McMahon didn't want to work Labor Day weekend. So I don't know how true that is. We'll see. My finishing move is, and I know I spoke about it a little bit earlier about Bret Hart, and honestly, I was thinking, and we all miss Owen Hart so much. He was phenomenal at everything he did. I think he would have been, at this stage of his career in his mid to late 50s, he would have been a phenomenal manager.
Yeah, he would have been.
I think he was a perfect talker. He was great. I think he would have been amazing. I think he would have been a guy who transitioned to that role very well. And it really got me thinking about how great of a guy he was and how great of a all-around wrestler he was in every aspect. So hopefully Bret Hart does an amazing job if he actually does become their manager for FTR. But we'll see. Yep. And on that note, I would like to say, Josh, hopefully everything is going okay. We missed you today. I know you busted your chops a little bit, but hopefully everything is going all right and everybody's doing all right. We'll see you next week. And Kenny Omega, take it away.
I must bid you adieu, so say with me now if you know it. Goodbye, and good night.
Thank you for listening to Off the Mat on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, your source for all things wrestling and sports entertainment. Thank you for listening to Off. It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair